Lots in the BBB. I thought let's start breaking some of this stuff down. Joining us on the phone, Will Flanders, PhD, Research Director from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Welcome, Will.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All
Absolutely.
Right. So I'll put it this way. There's a lot in this bill, and this has to do with some options for parents. You obviously come from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, but sort of break it down for people. What does this mean? What do you see in these new federal tax credits? It's sort of a scholarship program. Define it for people. Baseline it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously there's a ton of stuff in this bill, and it's hard to dissect it all. One of those things we had to pass it to see what's in it, unfortunately, right? But yeah, so this is one of the more exciting provisions, at least for folks like us that are supporters of educational choice. What this does is, for the first time, we've created a federal tax credit for school choice. And what that means is that everyone on their taxes will now be able to contribute to a non-refundable tax credit up to $1,700 to support SGOs. And I heard you guys talking about SGOs. We can get into that in a few minutes here. But essentially, those SGOs within each state will be able to fund a wide variety of educational expenses that could benefit private school kids. They could benefit public school kids, really any sort of group of kids that you can imagine. But the governor would have to opt us in if we want to participate as a state.
So what is an SGO? I think that's a big thing. Is like I read your op-ed in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel talking about this, and what is it? Who gets to decide what it is? How is it monitored and regulated?
Yeah, great question. Probably the biggest key question there is so SGO stands for Scholarship Granting Organization, and these will be 501c3s that are set up specifically to provide scholarships, again, in sort of any sort of variety of kids that you can imagine. They are required to spend 90% of their funds on the scholarships, so they'll be contributing a large amount to the scholarships, and they're state specific. In order for Wisconsin to have these, though, the federal law requires the governor to submit a list to the Department of Treasury, opting us in and sort of identifying those SGOs that will be eligible in Wisconsin.
As Governor Tony Evers, and I probably should have asked him yesterday when he was in studio, has he indicated he would do that, sign on for some organizations versus not signing on for others?
Yeah, so as far as we know, publicly the governor has not yet taken a position on this. We think, there's some differences from some of the things he's historically not supported, right? Like the private school choice programs we have. So again, because it's a tax credit scholarship, there's no cost to Wisconsin taxpayers. And when you hear what the governor generally says about school choice, he says it's sort of a drain on the public school system. We could debate that another day, but that's certainly not the case with this. Also, as I mentioned, you can set up SGOs to benefit students that are in public schools as well. So, for instance, we often hear about the need for more special needs funding. Well, an SGO could be set up specifically to benefit students who need special needs students in public schools. We hear about reading and the need to improve reading in the state. An SGO could be set up to benefit public school kids for supplementary reading services. So there are reasons to think, because this is more broad, it's not just about private school choice. We hope the governor will consider making that move.
Give me an example of, if you know, of an SGO who might be super interested in going forward now that this is allowed at the federal level. Give me an example or two, if you know.
Yes, I think the best examples are from states that have their own, tax credit scholarship program. Florida has what's called Step Up for Students. They've had a tax credit scholarship in place for more than 30 years, and it's one of the largest school choice programs in the country. It's a state-level tax credit. Because of the provision that 90% of funds have to be, contributed to scholarships, for existing organizations, it probably would take the sort of setting up of a subsidiary, sort of independent organization for that to happen. But any of the folks that are involved in the education space on the 501c3 side of things, you can imagine might be at least interested in looking into this.
So one of the things, who would, going back, if once these get set up, because I think one of the arguments for it is there's a lot of flexibility in it. There's a flexibility in what the scholarships could be for, who the scholarships are meant for, but with flexibility sometimes can invite loosey-goosey, benefiting maybe the wrong people. And so who would be the governing body making sure that these SGOs are practicing in good faith?
Yes, I think there's still the rulemaking process to go through at the federal level, and that'll determine sort of some of the accountability standards and things that'll be placed on these SGOs. Right now, those things are not fully in place, but I think there will be some accountability measures put on to what they do and how the funds are spent. In the long run, I think that the biggest check on that is sort of the same thing we see with charitable contributions in general, right? People learn which charities are effective, which ones are doing a good job, and those are the ones we, generally, obviously there are exceptions, see be able to continue over the long term. And the same thing would happen here. If an SGO is not living up to its expectations, not doing what it should be doing, ideally that one won't see large-scale contributions, and some of the other ones will come to dominate for sure.
Well, my last question for you, in the piece, I have it in front of me right now, one of the lines that you have in there is, this education expansion, direct quote, should not be a partisan issue. And I read that and I go, yeah, I would love that to be the case. But as you know, you and I know, and we've talked many times on this program and other programs, it's like everything's partisan. Can you see a world, an environment, a context where it's not partisan?
Well, I don't live in a bubble, so I realize it's not likely going to end up that way. But I don't know what we could debate. I used to say in Georgia we had partisan elections for the mortician, right? And I wonder what the Republican mortician does versus the Democrat mortician.
There you go, Will.
So everything will end up partisan, but I do hope that there is some room for folks to see some of the public school benefits as well, as I mentioned before, and that might be a pathway to get some bipartisan support. I think we're entering a new era, in perceptions of school choice. There was a New York Times article just the other day talking about public schools recognizing this competition and sort of is the new world. So maybe in that world, we will see the potential for folks to see benefits on both the public, private, homeschooling, charter school side. There's benefits for everyone potentially here.
Always appreciate you sharing your wisdom. Will Flanders, Research Director, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. We'll talk again, Will. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.